You've tuned in to Powerhouse on Purpose podcast, your go-to space for inspiration, empowerment, and practical strategies to unlock your potential and step boldly into your purpose.
I'm so happy to be here, Alisa. I am Micha. I am from Athens, Greece, and I'm a spiritual psychotherapist. I have been everywhere in the world, I think. I, of course, started my life in Athens, Greece. I was born to a middle-class family. Then I went to the UK to study psychology, counseling. And then I stayed there for 12 years. I worked there. I had my son. I got married to another Greek man. And then after my divorce, I returned back to Greece for a few years. And I was really looking forward for something bigger, something more. So I left for Asia. I went to Singapore for 13 years. And that was a very big port in my life. I grew, I learned, I became very independent. I made so many friends. And then around 2013, I was just in Singapore getting started, but I had a very strong feeling that I had to come to the US, to California. So it took me 10 years, but I arrived here in 2023. And I feel I have a big goal, and my soul's purpose is to be here and to help Americans and anyone else who wants to grow their soul, understand what life is about and what relationships are about.
Well, Maria, it is so good to have you. We welcome you to the Powerhouse on Purpose podcast. When we met for your pre-interview and we just talked about the things that you do, I thought it was very imperative that we share what you do and sort of your experience with whomever watches this podcast. I would love for you to be able to touch the world with what you've experienced. And so something that we talked about is finding your life's purpose. As you can see, purpose is a big thing with me. I think it is the connection of everything that we're supposed to do in the world. And when we learn to listen to that intuition and that thing within us that kind of shows us what our purpose is. So talk more about what it is that you do to help people find their life's purpose and even how you found your purpose.
So let's start with me.
Okay.
I think that our life's purpose very much connects with our soul's purpose. And I believe that we define our life's purpose before we come to this planet Earth. I was very lucky in a way because I knew my life's purpose and my soul's purpose when I was very young. But my life wasn't easy. My life was very difficult. There were some serious mental disorders in the household where I grew up. And that is very torturing for a very young child because you don't know why life feels difficult and challenging. But I knew that I was very interested in people. I was very interested in how they felt and how I could make their emotional world better. So at the age of 5, I knew that I had to do something with people's emotions. Psychology was just starting back then. We're talking about late 70s. I was born in 74. And by the time I was 9, I knew I was going to become a psychotherapist. And this is because I was petrified of being in the dark. So I grew a night terror, and my mother took me to a therapist. And in 3 sessions, it was all done. So I'm like, that's what I'm doing. That's how I'm going to help people. And then I knew I wanted to go to the UK, and we're talking about a time where internet is not there. Greece and Athens is the capital of Greece, but it's the Mediterranean. Things were a little bit more backwards back then. So I don't know how it came to me that I wanted to go to the UK. There were a few films about the UK and universities. I think that's where it came from. Of course, everyone dismissed me. You're young, you're going to change your mind. I didn't. I went to the UK and a whole new world opened up in front of me. I loved it. I loved the liberty. I loved how women were treated differently in the UK than the Mediterranean. And I felt that I was more equal to everyone in society. I met wonderful professors and they opened my world. And I stayed there and I worked in traditional psychotherapy, in traditional counseling. And then as I went through my life processes, my divorce was very challenging, but I'm so thankful for it because I found myself through pain and a lot of unfairness and injustice because my ex-husband was physically abusive. And then I decided I didn't want this life. It only happened once, but being a therapist, I knew it would happen again if I didn't do something about it. And in the beginning, you go through the pain, the difficulties, having a 40-year-old. But exceptionally grateful to him. Not for what he did, but for what it did to me, for how I found my voice, how I understood even his disorders, and I had chosen them because my parents had some of these disorders. Before you understand what's happening, you attract exactly the same thing in your life, even if it is very painful. And then I knew I had to go to Asia. Don't ask me why. I don't know how I get those visions and these very strong callings, but I always follow them through. And I went to Asia with my son. He was 10 at the time. Difficult to create a new life, to find new friends, to establish her professionally, but it was beautiful. And then there was a new calling as I was settling down in Singapore to come here, and I followed that as well. And I'm delighted to be here. I love this culture. I learned so much. It's such a diverse population, and I want to do as much as I can to help.
You have quite a story. So, born in Athens, moved to the UK, not really knowing what you were in for, maybe a few videos. I think that's major. I think I come from a similar background. Of course, born in the US, I'm from Alabama, a small town named Anniston, but I think I grew up in an environment where a lot of people hadn't expanded outside of just being around here, going to school locally, things like that. And so I didn't have that experience either or knew what it would be like. I just knew I wanted to do whatever it was I wanted to do. I was not a fan of conforming, and just because you did it did not mean that's what I was going to do. And so I've always had sort of my own mind about how to live, how to be. And I guess you could call me a free spirit, but I'm not so free that I don't have certain commitments to things. I am Christian, and so I do abide by the word of God, but I also have moments where I question things and I do ask questions, I do push back, and I'm never really one to be in a box, so to speak. And so I always remind people that if you have a box, keep it because I don't want to live in it. And so I love that you were able to, embark on something new that you may not have seen anybody else do and that you stuck with it. Because sometimes those people who mean the most to us or even the closest to us who have an impact, who have an effect, their vision of it matters, what they think about it matters, but sometimes it's best to push past even that because sometimes people project fear, and because they're uncertain, they worry about what that may mean for you. But the fact that you could push past that and move and just be able to listen to that intuition, and when those things say, shift, you're able to do it. That's a blessing because it's something that not everybody's able to do. Sometimes fear wins out. So kudos to you on that. So tell me about your time in California when you did come to the US. What was your experience?
Can I just say something about the fact that you don't like conformity?
Absolutely.
It's a gift. It's a gift. And it takes courage and it takes guts, but it's a gift because conforming to moral values is one thing. Conforming to respecting our fellow citizens and the people we live with and we love, it's another thing. But conforming to what society tells you should be, how can you be yourself? How can you gift the world with what is real and so beautiful in you? So we need to understand which part of conformity is healthy and helpful and which part isn't. And I understand that, I'm 50 years old, so 50 years ago, parenting was completely different and what parents expected of children and the fears they had for their children to not conform and what's going to happen to them. I get all that. But we need to set boundaries for our children and for ourselves, healthy ones, and allow our children and ourselves to be unique within those boundaries. And sometimes we do need to push those boundaries a little bit in order to achieve. And the most successful people were people who conformed to moral values. They knew how to treat others and themselves, but they broke free from all social constructs. And they felt a lot of pain, they had a lot of opposition, but in the end, they got where they want to go and they helped others. Live according to your soul's purpose and to your life's purpose, you're helpful to others. You're not depressed, you're not scared, you're not worried. You can be present for the people you love in your life and for your community. So I think you did the best.
I totally agree. I don't know. The conditioning that you can have over your children, I don't know if we're always aware, but I have saw that dynamic in how, so I'm on my third marriage, so I've been divorced twice. But in this marriage, we're blended. We both brought a son to the marriage, and it's so unique watching how different our children are because of how we've influenced them. And my son, my oldest, is my husband's biological child, but his viewpoint of life and just the choices he makes is very, very different from our younger son, which is my biological child. And I think the way I moved as a mother initially, especially being a single mom, I gave him a lot of space to be independent. But not only that, I cultivated a nature where he was allowed to express how he felt as long as it was respectful. Just because he didn't agree with me, I didn't think that was disrespect. I didn't feel that, not feeling the same way as me or, seeing it the same way as my perspective was a disservice to me as a mother. And so when we got married and my son would voice his opinion on things, my husband would sometimes like look at me like, you gonna let him say that? And I'm like, yeah, he doesn't agree. He's not disrespectful and he's not doing it in a way that is making me feel like he's disrespecting me as a parent or anything. It's just how he truly feels. And so even our dynamics, my husband grew up in a very different home life. He had both his parents, military background, all that good stuff. And I grew up with teenage parents, and yeah, it shows. It really, really comes up in how you parent later, how you make decisions later. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I have the mind to be different. And I do realize that everybody does not have that. I do believe that if we push that boundary, sometimes we get the best of it. And sometimes it may not be the healthiest thing. Sometimes children have too much freedom, right? And they make decisions that affect their lives long term. And so I agree. I agree there has to be a boundary and you have to kind of know what's too much and what's not enough.
Exactly, without crushing the child's soul.
Hmm.
Kids show us who they are and what they want to be very early on. And no child is born to be mean and terrible, to be a terror to society and to their home. There is something that is happening around them. Sometimes it's us that is bringing this up. And by punishment and force, we're not going to allow the soul to grow and express itself freely, but we do need boundaries. And usually, a religion or moral values and respect for others and ourselves will create those healthy boundaries for our children.
I absolutely agree. And so, do you have children?
I do. He's 25 years old
Okay.
and he's in the UK. He's in investment banking. He's doing very well and he's living with his girlfriend. And I think that soon they will be getting married. I can't wait to become a grandma.
That is so awesome. So, when did you notice in him what you felt that his purpose was in life?
My son was very clearly, he definitely came here to have a lot of fun. He did, and sometimes this is our soul's purpose. He had a childhood where he had a lot of friends. I would make sure of that. Having a one child, an only child, is very difficult for a mom because you're always worried that they don't have enough stimulation and peers. And he was the only child in my family, so there were no other cousins. The next cousin came up when he was 5 already. So he had a lot of friends, he had a lot of toys, had a lot of things, and I think he's very much into pleasure. So he spent a big part of his childhood, the first 10 years, just enjoying life, but he was also very smart and he was learning. He's not very active, so he didn't like, I put him in karate and football and basketball. He was done, he said, I'm done. So I listened. I did put a bit of a fight, but he wouldn't do it, so I listened, and this is not what he likes doing, so that's fine. And then when we moved to Singapore, he did struggle. He struggled because he was not with his grandparents. He was in a different environment. He went to international school, but the Asian culture is different, loving, amazing, but very different from the Greek culture. Asians are very noble, loving, exceptionally caring, but they're not emotionally involved unless they get to know you very, very well. So that was challenging for him. And I was very busy creating a life for us. And I have to say, I wasn't always there for him because I was working long hours. And this is a regret. If I could go back, I would change things to be more present, physically present at home. But I think that this international experience of 8 years changed him. And he loves Asian people. A testament to that is that his girlfriend is Asian, she's Chinese, and they're having a beautiful melt of cultures and languages and ways of seeing life. So I think that he became versatile and he was able to adjust to different environments, although he struggled. But struggle is something that we're worried about, we're scared of. We should embrace it. Through struggle, we change, we learn, we have emotional resilience, we find ourselves. People who live in a pink cloud, and some people do, it's lovely, but when they grow up and when they go out in the world and the pink cloud is a little bit diminished and might get a little bit gray, they don't have the emotional resilience. And they will have to feel pain and struggle at an older stage in their lives when we're not able to change and shift fast. We still can. Until the time we die, even in our 90s or 100-year-olds, we can still change, but it's a little bit more difficult. So we shouldn't be scared of struggle. We should embrace it. When there is struggle, I've learned now to ask myself, okay, what can I learn from that? What do I need in order to go through this? And sometimes the struggle in a particular situation is not going to come to fruition because that's not where I need to go. But I will have the tools and the lessons will lead me to take another path and go where I need to go. And that's when we should not get discouraged. The only reason we don't achieve things is because we give up. We need to learn, we need to take the obstacles as the best curriculum of life and move forward.
Awesome advice, perspective. There's a lot jam-packed in there that I feel could really shift a life. There's so much emotion wrapped in how we perceive people, even other cultures. Someone like me who hasn't left the U.S. yet, as soon as my youngest finishes high school, I'm on the first plane, first thing smoking out of here. But I can't wait to travel. But sometimes we have things like TV or just the news that we watch about the world that can sometimes give us a notion of what we are going to encounter that I don't believe in. I believe until you have your own experience of a thing, you really can't just decide what another culture's like. And so I love that your son allowed himself to be immersed in the culture, even though he struggled with it at first. And like you said, from struggle, something beautiful has grown. And now he loves their culture and even will marry that culture. And so I am absolutely excited for him and even how indicative it is for his girlfriend who has learned more about his culture. And I think that's the biggest part about us as people when we get on the earth. Even this season of the podcast, I wanted to make sure to connect with people that I can't just meet walking in the grocery store or, walking in the park. I want to make sure other cultures got to have a perspective, and I want to make sure I open that up to my watchers and listeners. And so tell me about your transition from being out of the U.S. to coming to the U.S. and tell me about your experience.
I was traveling to the US since 2015. I had come here early in 2004 and 2005. And the US is fascinating for anyone who's not living here. It's big, there is so much innovation, everything is different, everything tastes different, and the landscape is changing within a few miles of traveling. The fact that you can travel, okay, granted, for 2.5 hours, and you go from the West Coast to the East Coast, and everything is changing from flat scenery to trees that are alive for 2,000 years to going to the East Coast and seeing skyscrapers, a different culture that is intense and beautiful. So I wanted all that. What is my take? I think that Americans have a lot of love and they are very resilient. They have gone through so much. Wherever you come from, whatever your heritage is, many, many generations before, it has been challenging. But we tend to focus more on what divides us and not on what unites us. And if we could see that as humans want the same things, want safety, want love, want community, we want prosperity, we want justice, we want a safe environment to grow and understand, then we will not find so many reasons to feel divided, mistreated, and sad and depressed.
Yeah, that hit home. Being in the US, I think we can be a little privileged across the board. And so there's certain groups of people who will say others are more privileged, but for me, we all are, even if we don't know it yet. It's definitely a privilege to be born here and to be raised here. And we can often take it for granted because it's always been something that's been, offered to us. But I'm definitely moved by the perspective that if we knew that none of that affects purpose, right? What color you are, your experience growing up, whether you had a two-parent home or you were adopted, all those things are details of your story, but it doesn't affect purpose. And so if everybody could have a desire for purpose, they would already know, like once you know your purpose, all that other stuff sort of melts away. You find such peace and just such a sort of like a restfulness. When you know what your purpose is, you encounter people and you talk different and you approach things different and you experience life, people, nature, everything so differently once you know your purpose. Once I found my purpose, which sort of combated everything I know about women growing up. I struggled with my woman to woman relationships. I grew up in a family full of women. It was female ran, female led, and they're strong and opinionated. And it was a lot for me because I was so sensitive as a kid. I was super sensitive. I picked up everything and I didn't understand it back then what it was. And so I am an empath and I do feel emotion very heavily. I can feel energy. I remember getting to high school and when I would walk in to rooms where people may not have had the best affection for me, I would feel like needles were pricking my skin. I used to be like, what is that? And so I later found out that I'm picking up that energy of dislike and it feels like needles on my skin. To this day, I don't have any tattoos. I don't think I can handle it because that's what it reminds me of. For whatever reason, that's what I locked in when I would feel that feeling. And so to know that my purpose is in women and empowering them and equipping them and just giving them an opportunity, just like now, to come on my podcast and share who they are. Like, this is my life's purpose. This is my sole purpose. I love women. I want to see us all win. But it was a fight and a struggle to accept my purpose because it's like, this doesn't meld with what I experience, right? But I had to accept eventually that my purpose was known prior to my life experience. And I believe that it agitated me so badly to watch women to women relationships fail before me, to watch family fall out over and over and over again, to watch arguments happen amongst women would just unnerve me. And so I taught myself to avoid, to run, to find other people, just find other friends, get in a different group. And so then I realized it agitates me because it's my purpose to do something about it. It's my purpose to be the difference. And so everything that you said just really makes me think about how we're purposed prior to our life experience. Tell me about how your life experience went. So when you decided, well, you said you knew and even at 5 that this is what you were going to do, and then you left, you came to the US. What are some of the experiences over time that even further solidified your purpose for you?
I believe that the struggle and the pain and the beauty and the excitement, the adventure of adjusting to a completely new continent and a new culture, new religions around you is something that has shaped me. I had to understand others. I had to walk in their shoes. And through walking in their shoes, I had to not be burdened by their pain and the way that they do life, but just understand them, understand where they're coming from, and find a way to keep my unique identity and my emotions while I'm respecting them, and find a way to dance with them. We all are in a dance. Are we dancing harmoniously, or am I dancing waltz and you still want to dance rock and roll? How are we going to fix this? Maybe it's a new dance, that a third dance that we need to both learn. Or maybe I can see how it is to dance rock and roll, or maybe you can see how it is to dance waltz. But when we say, no, you need to understand me, you need to understand how I'm feeling, and I don't try to understand you, that's when there's conflict, that's when depression comes, relationships break down. As you mentioned in your family, this was something that was happening, because we all need to be understood and loved. But if we feel that the other person might not be able to understand us, and we have love and compassion for that, and we give them time and space, whilst we don't tolerate abuse, that's not what I'm talking about. We stay in our identity, but we have compassion for the other person. Then with time, and if we don't go into severe conflict, and if we understand that human nature is complicated and multifaceted, then we will find a way to dance harmoniously together. So all these cultures, all these religions, all the different people have truly shaped me, because I try to understand them and I try to find a way to be around them. What I find in modern big societies, and US is one of them, but also Europe and in certain places in Asia, is that people are so hurt by human relationships, by the lack of compassion, the lack of understanding, the tendency to engage in conflict and abusive words, sometimes abusive actions, that they have come to isolation. They're staying in a very small community or in a very small group of friends. They no longer want adventure. People who are divorced, they don't try to get married again or to find love again. I applaud you for being in your third marriage. Yeah, sometimes it takes time. And we're going to choose our first partner according to what we experienced in life. So we're going to bring in someone who's going to activate our trauma, unfortunately. And we can either resolve it, or sometimes it's not resolvable. Sometimes you need to say, I don't want to be abused, or I don't want to be talked down, or I want space to grow, I want to feel love. So you will try again and again until you get it right. We need to keep going, and we need to have compassion for ourselves and for others and try to find a way to communicate. People have given up on love. People have given up on feeling each other's soul and finding a way to coexist. So if I have one message for people is, don't give up. Don't give up on you. Don't give up on life. Don't give up on what you want. But especially don't give up on love. We need to go back to love. Not just intimate love. Love for our children. Love for our neighbor. Love for our community. And when you lace any difficult interaction with love, if you are doing everything with love in your heart, without tolerating abuse, then everything is different. And sooner or later, you're going to find a way to create a stronger bond that is fulfilling for everyone involved.
That is a perfect way to put it. Like that metaphor of dance. Dancing is my passion. I am my happiest self when I am dancing. Me and my husband actually went to a gala just last night, and it was a perfect experience. I mean, the food was great, the people were great, and I was having a good time. But once it was time for dancing, I'm just a happier person. I don't know. But I love it. And so that's a perfect metaphor to explain sort of how we encounter one another in life. I may dance a certain way, and you may hit the dance floor and dance a totally different way. But it doesn't mean we're not both dancing. And I think that's what's important about how we live this life and how we encounter others. Just because you don't dance the way I dance doesn't mean you're not dancing. And I think a lot of times we get caught up, or even we stumble in the space of, when I don't understand your dance, then I can't understand you. I can't accept the way you are. And I just don't believe that. I believe that in this life, experiences affect everything. And sometimes someone's experience just won't allow them to not recognize your dance, but they may not even be able to learn it. But that doesn't make them wrong or mean that you can't have some type of relationship with that person. Like you said, it may be a third dance that we need to learn together that we've never encountered before. But because we don't even want to give it an opportunity, because we don't try, we may never know what it would be like to dance with that person, to have that relationship, to have that intimacy, and not just romantic relationship. I often think about sisterhood. To have true sisterhood, you have to see them as if they're your true sister. To have sisterhood amongst women, I often think to myself, if this was my sister, if I had grown up with her, been around her, would I speak to her this way? Would I handle her in certain ways? How would I treat that person if they meant as much to me as my biological sister? And it gives you a different perspective of how you treat others. If you encounter someone who's looking for their life purpose, who's searching for what it is they're supposed to do, how would you guide them? How would you help them to get to the space where they can actually do that?
I combine traditional psychotherapy, the science of counseling, with spiritual practices. I have studied shamanism as well, and I read people's energy. And as an empath, I'm sure that you're very good at that, so you understand what I'm talking about. So we'll use a combination of the two. I will use counseling to take them back to their childhood, to go back and remember, especially through hypnotherapy, what they truly wanted. Until the age of 3, 4, we are very much in contact with our soul's purpose. We still remember why we came here. So through hypnotherapy, I will help them go back, remember, reconnect, and then I will bring them through their life experiences and help them see at which stage in their life they got hurt. And someone told them, you cannot believe in dreams. What do you mean? You think that you can become a singer? You think that you can have a podcast, Alisa? No, you need to bring food on the table. And I will help them release those fears, because fear is instilled in humans. We had it to survive. It is in us for thousands of years, because we need to protect ourselves from tigers when there were tigers in the woods. We're living in the woods thousands of years ago. Now we protect ourselves from cars or from a bill that needs to be paid or gonna go bankrupt. But when we're living through fear all the time, there is fear in expressing my soul, then this is hindrance. Then I don't allow myself to be in my own energy, my own power. And I can only feel my power when I know my soul's purpose. So through all these techniques, some come from science and some come from intuitive wisdom, I help them understand, and I utilize both. What I say to people, and not everyone understands and knows that, is that psychology's definition is the study of the mind, the brain, the soul, and the spirit. But because early psychotherapists could not, in the late 1800s or early 1900s, they could not quantify the soul and the spirit, they left it out. So they're doing all the experiments, all the researches on mind and brain, because we have more similarities as humans at that. But we've left half of us out of the equation. So I think that hypnotherapy and spiritual practices, praying is a spiritual practice. Meditating to God is a spiritual practice. And it doesn't matter who your God is. But when you meditate, when you connect with the spirit, your spirit, the world spirit, the collective subconscious mind, Carl Jung talked about it, then you can have a more integrated existence, and you can understand truly and deeply yourself, how you want to show up in the world. What does your heart want to express and experience? And when we combine in a beautiful way, in a respectful way, our cognition, our cerebral mind, and our spirit, then we're truly in our energy. And then we can be in the flow. When we just listen to your cognitive mind, it's very difficult. I'll give you an example. All decisions have to be a result of an integration of cerebral thinking and feeling, knowing my spirit, knowing my heart. Let's say I tell you, Alisa, there is an amazing house, very good deal in the woods. Big, has windows, it's beautiful, 3 bedrooms, price very good, you can go and buy it. And you do. But you have not listened to your soul. Your soul wants to be by the water, even if it's smaller, having light, looking at the sea or a river. Then you have made a very good cerebral decision. It is a very good home for a very good value, spacious, well built, but your soul is not feeling it.
Wow, because I'm actually living what you're describing right now. So, American dream, you go to school, you get good grades, you get scholarships, or you go to school and have it paid for, and you get your degree and you find your career, and then you find your husband, and then you marry, and you find the house and the white picket fence, and you have the kids, and then you get your dog, and life is awesome. You have your 2-car garage and everything's great. That is not my life. And it never would have been because of the dynamic of who I am, the divine purpose that I have, even how I'm designed. It's just not what I do. Like I said, conforming is not my thing. But I was very successful in corporate America. I believe that who I am as a person, who I am as an employee, I would always excel. And I would always get a raise or some type of promotion within like a year and a half, 2 years. So about every 2 to 3 years, I knew I was going to be moving up. And that's just naturally that I'm good at what I do. And honestly, I conform very well when it comes to those practices. I can do a process, I can do a system. I'm going to learn it and then I'm going to be able to execute it. And so I was very successful, very nice salary. I have an associate's degree, but I do not have a bachelor's. And so you would think with the climate of how work is now that I'd be so appreciative and so grateful that I would stay in that position until retirement. But I just couldn't do it. I wasn't passionate about the work. I was good at it. I was able to complete it. It wasn't that. It wasn't that I wasn't successful or that I couldn't achieve or accomplish anything. I had made great feats in that position, but my purpose was not being fulfilled. And once I knew that, it was very hard for me to stay. And so I left that corporate position back in October. And I know I'm affecting certain people in my life. They're like, why would you do such a thing? And even, even if you go work somewhere else without a degree, you're never going to be able to make that type of money. All these comments that everybody felt the need to share, even without being asked. But I know that it's because they're concerned, right? But something about my purpose just won't allow me to do it. I know I'm going to die there. Who I am inside, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, I'm rotting to death. Is how it feels when I'm just pushing myself to do a thing because it seems right with the rest of the world. And so here I am now. I am no longer working. I'm home full time. I work for myself. I do have companies that I run, but they do not bring in the type of income that I did with my salary. But we're not forsaken. We're not destitute. We're not on the street. But I do have moments where I'm like, I hope things go well enough to where we don't lose our house or have to sell or anything like that. And so that human nature of fear still sets in, even though I made the choice to pursue the purpose. The other thing about it that I've learned is that I wake up fulfilled every day. This podcast, the book I published, just doing the work that I'm meant to do, helping other women become better with their choices. I'm big on finance. I have a very analytical financial mind. I do believe I'll be a millionaire or a billionaire at some point if everything works out the way my mind says. But I think I'm also beneficial to others in how they are financially and how they allow finances to affect their work. My job previously had nothing to do with that. And so that's why I decided to allow purpose to be the priority versus just being successful by world standards.
And you are the epitome of people who were brave enough to say, I'm very good at what I'm doing and I'm having a very good life, but I want to bring my soul's true expression into life because that's when I'm at the happiest. And when your work and your soul's purpose are aligned, then you will perform miracles. And the whole universe will get aligned with you. It might take a little bit of time, and I can see that you are a woman who perseveres and does not give up. But everything will fall into place because people listen to you. Someone will have a business deal. Someone will sponsor you. Your podcast might turn into a TV show. But we need to try. We need to take the chance. We need to create this space for what we truly want to come alive. You have found your soul's true purpose and you're working on it. And something that I want to say to everyone who's listening is that when we find our soul's true purpose, it doesn't mean that we're in a path that's unobstructed. It's full of obstacles and it's full of challenges because human life is stressful, is painful. But as you overcome those challenges and as you understand what each obstacle is there to teach you and you know how to avoid it or what skills to actually cultivate in order to go around it, you will be driven to your soul's true purpose and to your dream life. But soul's purpose does not mean an obstructed life, does not mean a life without challenges. Humans, we don't grow in times of happiness and pleasure. We grow when things are difficult. But we need to have faith, We need to have faith in others. We need to have support. When humans, we face big challenges, that there is no one to hold our hand, there is no one to give us the help that we need or the hope that we need, then it's difficult. Then we go into depression. Then we go into suicidality sometimes. But when we have people around us and when we have a faith to follow and believe in, then obstacles become the best lessons in life, the best way to move forward. You know yourself when you overcome difficulties.
I just really appreciate you and just wanting to come to the podcast and share your perspective, share your expertise. This has been an amazing conversation. And I've been enlightened in this little time that we've talked. I have really learned a lot, and it's been encouraging. The space that I am in my life, I'm hoping that listeners and watchers who are in that same space are encouraged and see that although it is going to be tough, it is a struggle, especially when you're taking the path less traveled. It's not a lot of us right now. We're walking a path that few have decided to go down. But I would also say that even with financial success, even with academic success, even with peers, you're well liked among your peers. You're the life of the party. If there's something in you that says that your life is not complete, if you're not fulfilled, you may not have to leave your job. You may not have to change your group of friends, but at least give yourself the opportunity to seek out what that thing is and maybe give it the opportunity to meld it with the life that you have. I didn't see a way to do that, which is why I made my choice. But I don't believe that I won't see success this down this avenue. It's just going to look different. And it may not be the same level of financial success. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I am a persevere. I am, one who had a corporate director position with no bachelor's degree. If I can do that, who says I can't allow my purpose to be the thing that brings in a stable, sustainable income that may even exceed what I had before? And so the one thing that I came down to, I just had to try it. I just wouldn't forgive myself if I didn't give it all that I had and actually make an effort to live in purpose and do what I believe God designed me to do.
Alicia, if anyone tells you that you cannot bring a higher income than you had in a corporate world, please don't believe them. Maybe your corporate job was there to teach you the ways to bring the business ideas and the business knowledge you have into this and to grow it beyond belief and beyond imagination. I want to say something else. We need a vision. We need to be able to see and feel where we want to go, even if we're miles away. When I started dreaming of coming to the US, didn't have the money to get a visa. My son was still going to school. He was still in middle school. It was very difficult to move here, and I waited for 10 years. But the way that this US visa for me was manifested, it's miraculous. I got an exceptional talent visa because I had done a lot of media and articles in newspapers and magazines and radio shows. But everything fell into place because I believe I had to be here. And I've just arrived here almost 2 years ago. I still have not fulfilled my biggest vision. And there are obstacles because I'm in a new culture, in a new country, different laws. You need time to understand how everything works. People, governments, laws. But I have so much faith in my heart. Yet every day I wake up and I'm very, very much connected with my vision. And my vision is big, and I keep placing it with very strong, alleviated emotions. To just see it is not enough. You need to feel it. You need to wake up every morning having the feelings you anticipate to have once you're there. And you need to grow your dream, and you need to make it bigger every day. Don't worry about reality. Don't worry about how am I going to have a big car or a big house and I will be hosting events or episodes or a TV show. It doesn't matter. Make it as big as you want. Staying in reality when you dream is not ideal. Staying in reality as you go through every step of the way so that you don't hurt anyone or yourself is great. But when you dream, dream big. People have
That's
manifested
awesome.
Yeah. People have manifested those dreams. Like we have so many people in the world who came from very humble backgrounds, or there was a lot of pain or a lot of obstacles and hindrances in their lives. But because they had a vision, they would see the challenges, they would find a way to overcome them, they would seek help. This is something they're willing to do. Seek help. There's always someone willing to help, but you might have to go through 100 people. And then there they were. They kept the vision alive, they overcame the obstacles, they grew, and one day they wake up in the dream. But we cannot be so much attached to time. As long as we're safe, as long as we're well, as long as we're healthy, we have enough to eat, nutritious food to eat, we need to allow life to take its course. Time is not the most important thing, as long as we go there. And remember, from the time you start your dream until you go to your dream, you're having many good moments, beautiful moments of love, of attainment, success, and then you're going to get there. If you give up, it's not going to happen. Keep going, ask for help, keep your vision alive, have very strong emotions as if you're already there, and everything is possible.
Thank you so much. I will continue to do that. I had someone that I told my vision. And so I am a multi-talented, multifaceted person. I'm a creative, and there's a lot that I can do. But I remember telling someone the vision, and she was like, that is unheard of. And I said, it's supposed to be, because I haven't done it yet. And that's the desire, that's the drive you have to have when you're embarking on purpose. If God purposed it for you, it's likely there's nobody else who is going to do it anyway. And so you have to remember that when people tell you that it's not possible or they can't see it for you, know that you have to see it for yourself. And so I absolutely agree. And I thank you for speaking that into my life, for being here. And I'm hoping that we will talk again. I would love to reconvene sometime and let each other know how things are going. I'm glad that you're enjoying the U.S. Like I said, welcome. And we love you. We love having people bring nuances to America and just giving other people, another perspective. And so I love your story. And I just knew that I had to have you on to share it with everyone.
Thank you so much, Alisa. It has
And
been a great pleasure.
thank you.
I'm Maria Micha, and I'm a powerhouse.
That was perfect. I love it. Thanks for watching. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to receive future notifications and to stay plugged in to the Powerhouse.